introduction. I don't need to know about Hilton. Uh, of course, I know it already, so you don't have to present those things. If you want to put that as evidence of how excellent they are doing, how unique they are doing, you can do so, but in answering the question directly, okay? Otherwise, the introduction will be more meaningful if you can just capture your answer, your main answer from the three questions and then to make an executive summary. Otherwise, I don't think you need to make an introduction out of these three questions, provided that also you have limited number of words you can use. Okay, so any works exceeds 10% of the quotas will not be accepted. Okay, please be aware, and you have to put your work count on the assignment, both for the case study as well as your learning journal. So don't repeat the exact answer of different questions. Of course, especially I think for question number 1 and number 3, there's certain practices maybe will appear in both answer, but I think the focus are different. The first question, the focus are on the uniqueness, right? The third question is the focusing on the how they create a diverse workforce, right? So you don't just repeat the exact answer. You can, of course, you can code the practice in the answer, but you don't elaborate in detail. You only elaborate in detail for only in one question. You don't elaborate the same things in different questions. Okay, so don't repeat the exact answer. Don't write a passage without clear identification of which part you're answering which question. This refer to some student. I didn't say it this time, those who sent me, but I remember last year some student just write a passage and without addressing to the questions, they just try to write anything they think is relevant, and then that's it. That is definitely a wrong approach. In most cases, I will give it a fail because you are not answering the questions. Okay, don't make unbalanced answer. Remember, each question carry equal marks. So if you put too many words in one answer and another answer with very little number of words, that will make it very unbalanced, and you will get a very low mark in one of the questions, and you won't get very high mark as well, even you write a lot. Okay, so let's move to the learning journal, which I don't explain it more because I last lesson I already put some of my point. I just capture this is the guide from the study guide. I don't repeat it. You can look it, but I just for the convenience purpose, I just try to copy it for you here because this file also will send to you. And this tips for learning journal, I already talked about it in the class. I just type it and for your easier reference, and I don't elaborate it again. Okay. So make sure you understand. But yeah, and the style also I also explain in the class, so I don't elaborate it too. Okay, so let's go to the examination. Okay, actually the file will be sent to you, so you will get everything. I answer, you don't need an introduction actually. For the assignment and the examination detail, how to submit it, please go to Vinci. Okay. Depends. If some of the concept, I think you need to define it, or you need to explain it. Okay, let's go to the examination format. So as what Vinci talk about it, at this moment it should be a online examinations. This the time limit is 2 hours, and you will get the question, and you need to upload your answer before this 2 hours. This is the last year's question. I just for your reference, and you can look at the style and the topic. But don't expect the same question will be appear. Okay, we will talk about the revision topic later, but just for you, because even you know about the topic, maybe you don't know how the question will be asked. But for your informations, actually, especially it is an online examination, the question will be a little bit harder. Yeah, because expected you can make some reference to answer the question. So the question tends to be not that straightforward. So I don't think you will find a lot of questions like what are, like the question number 3, question number 6, number 8, right? This is quite straightforward. I don't think you will find such questions in the coming examination. That will be more like the question number 1, 4, 5, or 7. So there's more room for you to argue. So you need to put forward an argument rather than to just put some of the points. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the topic for revisions. I select this is try to give you some kind of the hints. So I also give you some of the tips for the revisions. So in the following page, we'll try to look at the topic, and because the exact examination, if nothing to be changed, there should be 6 questions. So you will need to choose 3 out of the 6, and the 6 questions are in 6 topics, of course. So I think to protect yourself or to be pay safe, you need to choose at least 5 topics to do your revision in-depthly. And for the other topic, maybe you need to also have a look. Otherwise, if you can't answer the topic you select, you still can answer other topics. Okay, and with the relevant slide from the PowerPoint, which is not this file. I have another file, 140 slide for you to do the revision. This is what I select from all the slide. And also, you are suggested to read the relevant chapters from the textbook. I will show you the textbook, the e-textbook, if you haven't read it before. This is also good for you to do the revision. And of course, any additional reading from the study guide, you can look at the study guide as well, with some of the topic which are not covered by our slide. Okay, so start your study plan as soon as possible, and you are suggested to form your study group, so that because there are so many things to read, right? So I think it's a good practice for you to share some reading tasks and then share with each others. Actually, you can prepare some notes as well if you think it will help you to answer the question without too much problem. And try to understand the concept thoroughly and research them if necessary. Because some of the concept in the slide or even you read the textbook, you may not be understanding 100%. So to make you to understand and answer the questions fully, you can do your own research easily by going to the Google, right? So I extract the revision topic. Also, you can find it in your study guide, which topic versus the chapter in the textbook. Okay. Okay, we start to have the first topic is the introduction of the HRM and the HR strategy. So in the introduction to the HRM, you should be able to know what kind of different kind of the changes, trend that affect the HR management, and try to compare the responsibility of line manager and the staff manager. Staff manager are referring to those HR manager, right? And of course, you need to know about the model, the three model, especially the best practice model, and how the best practice model relate to this staff commitment. We will discuss a little bit about that in our revision and discuss why, although the best practice are so good, right? But why in reality there are so limited use of the HRM best practices. Okay, so this is from your textbook, chapter 1. Chapter 1. So 1 means chapter 1. So the additional reading you can do it is from the textbook. And also from the chapter 3 in the textbook, it's about the human resource management strategy and analysis. So for example, you should able to understand what the relationship between the HR management and the company competitive advantage, and also how the HR strategy can be linked up with the company strategy. As I said, please, if you have any question, please type in the chat room. And if we have time today, we will try to answer it. But if we don't have enough time, hopefully I will select some and try to send to you via email. Okay. Okay. For the topic 2 is about the HR planning, recruitment, selection, and interviewing. So some topic or some question are important in this area, including the what is the manpower and human resource planning process? What are the process? Well, the main element, the HR planning, there are some elements. For example, you need to do the objective, and then you need to review the current status, such and such. And we will do the revision later, so don't worry about the questions. You can have just some idea of what kind of topic are important. Okay, so these are the topic important for you. So when you're doing revision, you're trying to think about, wow, so what can I say for those questions if I'm being asked, right? And explain to give example for effective recruiting. So in this chapter, one of the important area is also about recruiting. So in the recruiting, you got the internal and external approach here. And they got also the advantage and disadvantage when you're doing the internal method and the external method. While we'll put more emphasis on the external one, and also you need to understand about, for example, the use of internet, social media, recruiting, how this help the hiring process. The other areas, including the chapter 6 and 7 in your textbook, is about the employee testing, selection, and interviewing. So try to evaluate the selection method and consider what factor affecting an organization in considering the selection method. In the interviewing, more will be on different kind of the interview, different form and different style. We have different form and style of the interview, and what kind of interviewing earlier. And you can see this is one of the questions we asked last year too. And how you can overcome this kind of the problem. Okay, and for the topic 3 is about talent management and child development. It relates to the textbook, chapter 4 and chapter 8. In the chapter 4 and chapter 8, you can read about and you can find it about is what is the talent management and the process, and trying to compare the method of collecting the job analysis data. There are certain ways to collect it. For example, you can do it from the questionnaire, position analysis questionnaire, interview, direct observation, daily log. These are all mentioned in the textbook. And try to describe and the type of information typically you can find in the job spec. And for the training and development, there are quite a lot of topics important. I just select some more important one for you to do the revision. For example, about the orientation, about the training process, and more important is different kind of the management development tools. One of the very important management development tools is about job rotation. We'll talk about it in the next file. Of course, not all will be appear in the examination. You can imagine this is the revision area. That means you try to do your revision. Okay, you've got only 6 questions. Of course, you won't be asked so many questions, right? Okay, in the topic 4A, actually the topic 4, you got A and B, right? So in the talent management or performance management, you got also the appraisal, in the appraisal one, I think it's most important is about what kind of radar or the appraiser error and the impact. And then 360 degrees is supposed to be the one that can reduce the appraiser, multiple appraiser errors, but still it was being limited use. So what's the reason, right? And this is mainly the main point for these chapters. I think it's 5. Okay, so I will change the heading here. Actually, the 5B is about the pay plan and also the incentive, right, and the benefit that relate to your textbook chapter 11, 12, and 13. So one of the area I think is about the different pay system, right? We talk about the different pay system, the pay mix, incentive, and how it match with the different type of employee. And we talk about also the flexible benefit program. I think these are all very important. Okay, in the topic 5 and 6, actually is not much in the textbook, and not much the topic will be involved. The main topic I think is about the disciplinary actions. Okay, for the topic 7, it's about employee engagement. That is related to your chapter 10, employee retention, engagement, and careers. So you got the questions in the past year is about mentoring, coaching, the advantage of using mentoring and coaching, and then the relationship between the turnover, performance, and how to reduce. Okay, this is one of the most important part where you need to put more focus is about what step might an organization take to reduce the turnover and enhance the employee retention. Actually, in the class, we talk about the difference between the turnover rate and also the retention rate, and the purpose are different. Okay, so in answering this question, you need to address both. So the how to reduce the turnover and how to enhance the retention. And there are also certain areas about the complication, so and so. Okay, the last topic is about the employment ordinance and related legislation. The more important things I will say is about the discrimination, the equal opportunity stuff, especially when it relates to what extent the legislation in Hong Kong for the discrimination is able to protect the staff, and also about the sexual harassment, which is one of the issue arise from the gender discrimination. So how the employer can limit the liability, because the employer are held liable for if cases happen in the company and they don't take enough precaution and action. Okay, so that's all. Of course, I will explain in more in the PowerPoint slide. Okay, before I do that, I would like to show you the textbook. So this is the Gary Bissell textbook, which you have the access, right? hopefully you have already saved it offline, and then you can read it on the way. So what I talk about the chapter is from this chapter. So for example, the part one introduction that will include starting from chapter 1 to I think it's chapter 3, okay? And then for the part 2, recruitment, placement, that are all related to the staffing stuff, you can also find in the part 2. And then training, compensation, you don't have much about, we didn't touch on the part 5. So mainly what you, that will relate to your examination will be part 1 to part 4. Okay. Of course, some of the appendix or the glossary can be helpful for you to understand certain concepts. Okay. So if you join lately, don't worry. The materials will be sent to you, or you can find it from Brightspace. So Vinci will inform you afterward. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the. As I said, please, if you have any questions, just put it in the chat room. We will try to continue the revision and try to leave some time at the end for you to answer your question. Okay. Okay, so this is another file. This is the file also will send to you, or those almost every slide you have actually. But to make you to do a revision easier, I just picked only less than 1/3. I think just about 1/4 among all the slides. In this module, we have about 500 slides, so I select only 1/3 or 1/4 of the slide that are most relevant for you to do the revision for the examination. I'm not saying other slides are not important, but not important in the sense for this examination. Okay, so let's move. So for the topic 1, so you have the definition, right? First, you have the definition. You have the definition. Of the HRM. This is according to also according to Gary Diesel. So this is something very basic, right? So that included. So always when we talk about HR management, we are talking about how this kind of the policy or practice helping the organization to manage their people. So the kind of the management, including recruiting, screening, training, rewarding, are basic. So it also showed it in this diagram. So it's always starting from we acquire the staff, and then we need to train them and place them, try to see whether they're good enough, and try to compensate them to make them to be more motivated, and retain them and try to keep the good relationship with them and try to be fair. So this is all we talk about in different chapters and different topics. And the function of the HR managers is including the line function. That means they also have the staff. They do just like acting as an FA manager, and they have the functional authority, try to coordinate the stuff, and then they have the staff function as a expert in the HR. And then the more important one is about the free model. As I said, this year we are more focusing on the best practice model. So in the best practice model, you need to understand what is what's mean by best practice and what are their beliefs. Actually, in the best practice model, or they call it high commitment model, they believe that there will be a universal set of the HR practice that can enhance performance. And the result is doing those best practice, we can generate high commitment and high involvement of the staff. So it further explained in this slide about the best practice model. So they believe there's a bundle of HR policy and practice will lead to better organization performance. And such practice can be sustained over a long period of time and is regardless of what kind of business circumstances. So they believe something will work all the time, okay? And this point is also important. The best practice model believe those best practice will be operate more efficiently or more powerful together than they just operate one by one. So means if you just adopt one or two best practice, maybe it's not enough and may not be that powerful. That's what the best practice model means. And one of the notable authors or academic advocating a best practice model is Pieper. So he got the so-called the 7 HRM best practice, which I have explained it in the class. So some of the best practices are quite idealistic, I think. For example, the employment security. Yeah, I think it worked well in 20 or 30 years ago, but right now actually it's hard to do that, right? And selective hiring means you need to do the hiring very carefully. You have to do a lot of tests and you need to go through a lot of process seriously before you hire right people. So a lot of this kind of practice actually is quite idealistic, or maybe easier for do it for a very large company, but not for a very small company. So that's why there's a criticism. So you need to also understand what kind of issue. That also explains why best practice are not widely used, although they call it as a best practice, but actually it's not widely used. First, I think it's because it's quite costly if you do everything, right? Because incentive need money, employment security means you don't fire people easily, right? So you don't save the cost even in the bad business environment, right? And there's always got the tension because when you do the production, you try to minimize the cost and try to be more flexible, right? But on the other hand, some of the best practice may not create this kind of advantage. And some people even criticize that such kind of the model is just fit for some Western private sectors. And there's a lot of query about how much it contribute to the financial result. So this is also one of the saying is the best practice because how the best practice model established is because they found that a lot of successful company they got this kind of practice, right? But they can't prove whether it's a causal relationship. Actually, it could be because of you are successful, you are able to offer such kind of benefit or such kind of best practice. So the causal relationship is not that clear. And you should also know about the best fit. Best fit is about fitting with the external environment. And then the last is the resource-based approach. Basically, the resource-based approach is about how a company using their human resource fitting their own resources. So they should utilize the resources. And how they define the resources is the resource must be can add value, can be more should be more unique, difficult to imitate, and can be sustained. So this is the diagram you may need to know about how HR management contribute to the company performance. Okay, so here repeat some of the question. So in the chapter 3, actually, you need to understand the changing environment. So what the changing environment? So actually, you can find the more detail from the textbook about this topic. So I don't explain more here, right? And you need to understand what is the changing role of the HR management. For example, the HR manager is not just a back office, not just doing the supporting, but they are also doing more strategically and also to try to play a role in enhance the performance of the company. Okay, so in the class we also talk about the concept of the competence. So the competence coming from the KS, the knowledge, the attitude, and the skill. So the competence is something that can contribute to the success. So whatever attribute that can contribute to success, we regard as the competence of the job. Okay. So in the topic 2, it's about human resource planning, recruitment, and selections. So we talk about what's the effective HR planning. So the good planning means you can control the cost, you can have sufficient number of people, you've got talent people, and they are able to retain. So we also talk about the step in the recruitment and selection process. So starting from the planning, forecasting, and then we try to do the recruiting. So you need to understand what is the difference between recruiting and selection. Recruiting means you're trying to attract as many people as you can for the position, while the selection is how you can select the people among those applicants. So of course, in the selection, you also do some other tests to enable you to make a accurate, good selection. So the one of the effective recruiting element is about you need to consider the external factors and any other factors that may affect the effective recruiting. For example, the law, whether your company got a good brand name, that all will affect the success of your recruiting. Okay, so I will more advise you to put more focus about external recruiting. So in the external recruiting, you can recruiting via internet, advertising, traditionally through the employment agency or other agency, or outsourcing, use the headhunter or we call executive recruiter, using some on-demand recruiting system services. And you can do your campus recruitment, referral. So in the external hire, that will bring you more new ideas. Can also bring the new confidence, competitiveness, but also they got some disadvantage. For example, for the current employee, they will be less motivated because the position is given to the external people. And maybe the people, when they join it, they need to take time, the long adaptation time. There are two recruiting you need to know about that, which are become more and more popular and important. The first is about the recruiting via internet. So the advantage of the recruiting via internet is more cost effective. You can attract more applicants. And when you do it, especially if you do it either from your own website or you advertise in the job board, actually you can allow a longer period of the advertising because you don't count on the advertisement day by day, right? And you can do the pre-screening of the staff or of the applicant, and you can make immediate response because when the people see the job, they can just apply it without any delay. Of course, if you have other tracking system, you can also enable it through the internet recruiting. Some of the disadvantages because it exclude those one they don't use internet much, and I think this can be another one. I think the next one can be the more disaster one is because you attract a lot of people, of course, but a lot of them are unqualified, unsuitable, and they just apply it because it is so easy to apply. And it involves some of the information privacy concern. And another one is about the social media. That means you try to use social media, for example, use LinkedIn, or sometimes now we use also the Facebook to do the recruiting. First, you need to prepare all the information in the website, otherwise it doesn't work well. And we try to present a comparison between the most popular social media, which are the Facebook and the LinkedIn. Of course, for those more technical senior position, LinkedIn will be much better than Facebook. And the people actually there are more ready for that, right? But also, I think for the Facebook now, it's become they are more active in also the kind of the job matching recruitment. They can attract also a lot of different type of people, especially some of the job. For example, those are manual work or doing servicing, non-clerical job. Actually, Facebook are more popular, and they can attract a wider populations as well. So there are certain basic features of the interview, including the type of interview and the interview format. We are focusing on the two interview format, that is the structure and the unstructured one. And there are certain steps for you to design and conduct the interview, which are also asked in the last year, right? And how to conduct effective interview. So there are certain tips for you here. And how you can prepare for the interview in the different stage. So how to conduct an effective interview, you can divide it into the preparation stage, and then the interview stage. And at the end, what you can do is, you try to overcome those problems, because during the interview, there are certain problems. Okay, yes. Okay, I will take a short break here, and we'll return in, let's say, what's the time now? It's about, and let's come back in a 11:15. So just take a natural break. And if you have any questions, still you can type in your chat box, okay? And we'll back in. Okay, we'll back in 11:15. Okay, so just take a break now. See you then. Okay, so let's back. I have seen one of the questions is about the assignment. Yes, if you remember the assignment, the deadline for the assignment is I think it's 14th of January. So what I'm going to do, because some students may want to they want me to have a look. So, but however, if the time is too close to the deadline, actually it doesn't help, and I can't promise because I also have a lot of things to do before the next week. So what I'm typed in the chat room, you can look at it. Is I will only accept those people, if they send me before January 10th, that's mean next Monday. Okay. So otherwise, actually, if you send me late, if you send me next week, actually, if I take 2 days to reply you, and you will have only 1 or 2 days, and I don't think you can change a lot, right? So it doesn't make sense for you if you just send it late, okay? So be fair. So I will say January 10th will be the cutting point, which after that I won't accept any assignment. Send it to me for comment. Okay. Any question about the assignment? No? Okay. Why not we just go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. The next is about the talent management, HR development. Let me see. Yes. Which is also in your textbook and in your PowerPoint slide. To make you easier, actually, I will send you this file, so you don't have to find the relevant slide from the notes you have. Actually, the slide I select are the one for you to do the revision, so it's more important for this examination. Okay, so let's continue. It's about the talent management, which is the topic 3. Okay. So in this chapter, you need to understand what's the talent management process. So starting from the talent acquisition, in another term is the recruiting, but in the talent management we call it the talent acquisition. And after you get the people, you've got the onboarding, for example, the orientations, and then the development, performance management, succession planning is for the management development tools, and then you do your planning. Okay, so I extract also this training cycle because in the HR development strategy, one of the very important thing is the training, right? So in the training cycle, the process is starting from you identify the training need, you do the training need analysis, and then you try to establish the outcome. And then we will try to design and deliver it. So it's a kind of implementation stage. And then you evaluate the activity, okay? And then you go back to the need. If you found that certain needs are not being addressed, you can try to design it again, right? So it's important to do a good HR development, because this is something that can enhance the individual and the organization level capability and their competence. So we talk about also the step in the training process. There are 4 common training steps, including the need analysis, design, implementation, and the evaluation. Actually, it's the same step as what we showed in the last slide. So in the training need, there's certain method for you to assess the training need. The most common one will be using some sort of the questionnaire, right? The survey, right? And also the information from the performance appraisal can also help to develop the kind of the training need. And of course, the employer or the supervisor, they can, based on their observation, and try to ask the staff. So from there, you can identify the training need. So next is about the training method. There are a lot of training methods we presented. Of course, not every method will be used in a single company. Some company, they may use the 1 or 2 kind of the training method. One of the training methods which are most commonly find in the company is the on-the-job training. So this is also the step to create your own training program. For example, setting the training objective, the job description, and then try to record the analysis and try to develop a job instruction sheet, and then compile the training program so that you meet with the job requirement and the job need. One of the most important topic in this chapter is about management development. So management development is a very essential part of the whole training and development, because that will enable the company to focus on their talent and the succession, and to make sure they got the good management, and the management can be sustainable. So the management development is able to assessing the company's strategic need. So what kind of need they require, not only at the present moment, but in the longer term. And then they can also appraising the manager's current performance, and also help to develop the manager for the future manager. So here is the aims for the management development. One of the aims is try to help them to understand what is expected, what is the management, what is the company expected of them, to set the objective, or to set the milestone for those people, and try to identify and develop manager with the highest potential. So that involves also selection, actually. So that's what we are saying in the management development. One of the use of the tools is using the assessment center, so that from the assessment center we are able to identify who are the potential management people, and then we try to tailor-make and fit the need by developing a individual development plan for those managers. Okay, so the relationship between leadership and management development. So we understand the management is very important, especially in promoting a learning culture. So you've got the good management before you've got the good staff and good culture, especially in the very changing environment. The management leadership being so important. And one of the method which are commonly used in the management development is the coaching and the mentoring, which are also asked in the last year question. You can refer to the last year examination paper, which in the file I just presented. Okay, we introduced the three on-the-job management development technique. One is job rotation, another is coaching, mentoring, and action learning. This year we will more focusing on the job rotation. As far as you understand, job rotation is a kind of the arrangement that try to develop the skill and give employee experience needed for the managerial position. So usually, how a job rotation work is they will try to arrange the people to be to work in different department, different position for a certain period of time, maybe 3 months or some job rotation can last for even half a years. And then they will shift to another position, another department to work. And during this kind of job rotation, the people are able to understand more about different function, and they will acquire different kind of the skill that can enable them to be a better management or better general management people. So always job rotation is also linked with the career management. So when we talk about career or development, we used to have two terms. One is the vertical development, another is horizontal development. So job rotation is regarded as a horizontal development. So vertical development means, for example, you got a promotion from one position to another is a kind of vertical development, right? But for the horizontal development, is mean you got the kind of development, not necessarily is a kind of promotion, but you acquire different experience, different skill set from different function, so that yourself being more competent. So it's a kind also is a kind of development. So one job rotation is regarded as a horizontal development. So of course, the rotation, job rotation can be quite useful, and the costs are not high because they're actually working, right? They're not just going for the training without doing their job. They are working, right? But however, of course, when they rotate in different job, of course, at the beginning they are just like a learner and they don't help a lot, right? So it's also a cost, you can say. So this also explains not every company or every position or every people they will do the job rotation. They just provide job rotation to a very selected group of people, especially for the management trainee or someone they believe they can become a general management or top management at one point of time. So here I also select some slide about coaching and mentoring, which are also one of the tools for the management development on the job of management development technique. And I try to let you to understand what the differences between the coaching and the mentoring. Coaching can be formal or informal. Usually the coaching we have a time limit. That means we set a certain period of time and they try to achieve some of the objective using coaching. So the purpose of coaching is allow them to learn by themselves. Of course, you need also a coach, right? But most of the time, actually, the people they try to learn by themselves through the action, and then do the reflection, and then try to talk with the coach. It's a kind of the self-learning, actually, a self-learning process. While mentoring also can be formal, informal, but usually the mentoring relationship are longer-term relationship. So what mentoring means is just like a very experienced people, they try to pass their experience to those younger or inexperienced people, so that they can apply the kind of the experiences quickly, not and they don't need to try and early and do everything by themselves, but they try to get the experience from those from those more experienced people. So other form of the management development training, for example, those are off-the-job one is you can use case study, management game, seminar, university program, role play, modeling. I talk about modeling. Modeling is something like you just imitate someone, and you follow them, and then try to imitate them. And the executive coach. Okay, so before we go to the compensation, performance management, let's see whether there's any, are there any specific section for us to focus on? If you hear, actually you can select certain topic. We have 8 topic, right? If you listen carefully, actually you can. Not every topic will be examined because we have only 6 exam questions, right? So there are only 6 topics we will examine. Some topic I taught very few, you will understand that will not be examined. Okay, so I think you can easily from what I said, you can easily identify those 6 topics. But among those 6 topics, of course, there are some more important and some less important, right? So try to listen. I can't tell you directly what are the questions. This is not allowed because it's examination, especially it's an online examination, means you can prepare everything. If I told you the questions, actually you can prepare, and then you can just do everything beforehand. I think this is also not fair, right? The chapter is related to the questions. Okay, so when you do the topic, to select topic, under each topic there's a chapter, right? So you have to listen carefully. Okay. Actually, when I talk, I will put more emphasis on those stuff that are more important or higher chance to be appear in the examination. While for those they're important but they may not appear in the examination, I will talk less. So so that's why you are here, right? That's all. That's the maximum I can talk about. So try to listen it. Okay. Performance management is also important topic. Some basic concept you need to understand is the differences between the performance appraisal and performance management as a whole. And then the cycle, right? I explain in every chapter or every topic. Actually, I will try to include some basic concept, but the basic concept are not necessary to be asked in the question. But of course, if you understand the basic concept, it's easier for you to understand the question and easier for you to answer the question as well. So that's my approach. I try to let you have some fundamental one, and then when you're being asked for some specific one, you will still know the concept and won't answer something in a very silly way. Okay, so here is the performance management cycle and track review. Okay, just like you're planning for anything, right? Always you go through this kind of the plan and track review process. So the key management process involved taking place in the PMS are of course you starting from setting the objective and then measure the objective and then appraise and then doing coaching and the management. Something related to performance management in practice, some HR function that are related, including recruitment selection, induction, training and development, and performance appraisal. The PA, performance appraisal, they can be used not only for the function we talk about, but it enables us to make some important decision. For example, the job movement decision. For example, promotion, transfer, that kind of the decision. And from there, we can evaluate them and then to design the reward and the training for them. So effective appraisal performance, appraising the performance should be, we need to have very clear performance criteria, and we need to have a very accurate measurement to measure the result, and then we need to provide feedback. There are certain problems involving in the performance appraisal problem. Actually, all these problems relate to one thing, is about the appraiser or the radar we call. So it's always the radar can make some problem. For example, if they have a very unclear standard, or they got the so-called the halo effect. The halo effect means they try to focusing on something good. Okay, so when they see there's one point of the candidate they got very good, and then they just don't ask but project they are also good in other area, other aspect. Central tendency means they don't make judgment and they don't differentiate the candidate, but try to give everybody the same rating. And legitimacy or strictness is also a rater bias. They become very legend to some people and can be quite strict to some other people. It happens, can be different rater have different level of legitimacy or strictness, and it can happen also to one people or one appraiser. They got different standard, choose different people. So this is how the company, they should choose their appraisal tools. Okay, here come who should be their appraiser. So who should be the rater? As far as we're concerned, because there's a lot of issue happen for the single rater. Traditionally, the immediate supervisor are the appraiser. Okay, but since people tends to have bias, people tends to have some personal error in as a rater. Okay, so why we try to say to reduce the kind of single rater problem, whether we should involve also some other related personnel as appraiser or the rater. So that come to a concept called 360-degree appraisal or feedback. So this is the 360 appraisal. Of course, we maintain to have the manager or the direct supervisor as the appraiser, but on top, we also include their co-worker and peers, or even the subordinate, and they do their own appraisal. Or in some cases, we involve also the customer. Of course, some staff, they don't deal with externally often. The customer will be those internal customer. So we have this all party to be involved and try to give input to those to the people being appraised. So this explains what is the 360-degree appraisal. However, there are some issue arise from the 360-degree, and that lead to an issue that even 360-degree seems to be a quite perfect one to resolve those single rater issue, but still is not being used so commonly. First is the rater error. Okay, so this is important. We'll explain it. The rater error include the upward rating, the peer rating or outside party, or can be quite biased as well. Okay, And another one is because of the sample can be not that representative, and the administrative burden. So here is about the upward appraisal. That means coming from the subordinate. If they rate their manager, what kind of problem that may arise. So you can look at the disadvantage mainly, okay? So, for example, it may cause the manager to revenge. So when they found out, oh, someone are rating them badly, they may do a revenge towards those people. And sometimes it's not because of that, but the subordinate themselves may fear of that kind of revenge that may prohibit them to give realistic rating or give a negative rating. Or simply they just don't do it because in principle, all 360 degrees are anomalous. So even you don't do it, the manager will not do, or even the company will not know it, right? So people tend to, if they have negative feedback, maybe they just don't do it. And another issue that can coming from the 360-degree appraisal is the you can see the team and the peer rating. So since they are working as a team, when it's required to appraise each other, that can affect their working relationship because they will afraid if I think something bad, maybe it cause a bad relationship. That I think that is the most things, and of course there can be some bias, especially when the staff they are competing for promotion, for example. So most likely they won't place their rival, their colleague very well because in such case they will got a higher chance to be promoted. So here is some appraisal interview guideline. One of the very important thing is every appraisal, in order to engage a feedback, there should be an interview that allow the appraisee to be able to give certain feedback. So in such kind of the interview, there's a certain guideline to make it more effective. The last but not least is the PA. If we're linking the PA with reward, there can cause also some problem. Of course, it's a good initiative to try to link the appraisal linked to pay, for example, to link it to the merit pay. That means the increment, the increase of the salary are linked with the performance appraisal. So all the good things can be from this kind of the appraisal linked to pay, right? However, it can be also some problem as we talk about in during the classes. Okay, we talk about it because sometimes going back to the length of pay first. Oh, this is a good point, right? But the bad point is when we link it to pay, it may cause the supervisor, they don't do the very true, or they don't do the appraisal from their heart, because they worry about if their appraisal is no good, then the staff may not get a pay rise, and the staff will be discouraged, and then they do even worse. Okay, let's finish the second part of this is the compensation and reward system. That involve I think is a few chapters in the textbook. There are some more chapters about this compensation and reward system. If you look at your textbook, I think the chapter 7, 8, 9, if I remember correctly, is about compensation. Oh no, it's 11, 12, and 13. So in this chapter, we talk about the use of different pay, fixed pay, variable pay, and if you remember, we have also asking you the question in the class, different kind of people, what kind of proportion should be fixed, what kind of proportion should be variable pay, right? So you can see how different pay mix means to different employee. Usually those younger one, they would like to have more variable pay, while for those they have a more financial burden, they will tend to have a fixed pay more. So we talk about this according to different employee. For example, the senior, starting from the senior executive, professional, sales, clerical, and manual workers. So hopefully you still remember what we have discussed in during the class. This involves also the kind of the total reward concept. Okay. Okay, let's move. So this involves the total pay, because when we talk about total reward, we're not just talking about the basic pay or the basic salary. We talk about also the bonus, the allowance, and also the other benefit. In a broader term, even it can include also those non-financial reward. And one of the important topic about benefit is first we need to know there's different type of the employee benefit that can be under classification of insurance type, security type, leave, and also other scheduling and employee services. And there's a new concept about benefit, because what's a benefit work well is if it fit the need for the people, right? So there's a argument that we should have a more flexible one, so that to allow the employee have a higher choice. So for the fixed benefit, of course, we don't provide choices. We provide the choices only for the one those other benefit, right? For example, the voluntary benefit using the company discount, or you can choice of the benefit while you can save some tax, for example. And there's a concept called profit tier that provide a highest degree of choices. Profit tier, or called a flexible benefit plan. Of course, the flexible benefit plan means the people are allowed to choose to select the benefit they prefer most, right? However, the problem of the flexible benefit will be there could be quite inappropriate choices. They can select something they are not really logical, or they don't select something which is important, and at the end the company may have to bear the risks or to pay for those accidents, right? And another problem is when you engage a flexible benefit, it will cause a higher cost as well, because usually the selection, the people with the higher risk of those, or they have a high chance to use those benefits. So the benefit cost will be also increased in this sense. So here are the advantage and the disadvantage of the benefit. Okay, so before I go to the topic 5, let me see if there's any questions. Actually, I have already selected the most important one. Actually, it's only less than 1/3. I think just 1/4 of the total slide you have. So actually, I save you at least 2/3 of the time already. So it's not study everything, right? For the assignment, I think Wincy can explain to you the time deadline, okay? Whether it's Hong Kong time or the Irish time, but I don't think you need to care too much, because you can always submit earlier, right? So if for pay sake, why don't you just submit earlier, so that you don't have to worry about the deadline, right? Okay. Okay, I will take a short break here, a 5-minute break. So we will return in 5 minutes past 12. Okay. So we'll continue the revision, starting from topic 5 to topic 8. Okay. So okay. So see you guys. Okay. So okay, everybody here? Okay, good. Yeah, very good. Okay, let's continue. Okay, we just finished the topic 4, and we will continue for the topic 5. Also starting from some basic concept. So what's the employment relations and the three key player in the employment relations is the employer, employee, and the government. And the employee communications, we have the upward communication, downward communication, and then the horizontal communication. So in this chapter, we have also the topic of discipline and grievances handling. So here, this slide is explaining what kind of discipline and the grievances we have. And what the purpose of this of the discipline. Usually, the discipline is trying to assist the employee to change some sort of the unwanted behavior. For example, the absenteeism, poor performance, and any other inappropriate behavior. In this chapter, we also introduce a concept called progressive discipline procedure, simply by using the verbal caution, and then the written warning, and then suspension and the termination. And we lay out also the typical reason for grievances. Okay, here come 6B, and I think which is a more important topic in the employee relations is about retention and the staff turnover. First, you need to understand how we measure turnover and how the turnover rate be computed. So the basic formula is we have the number of people leaving the company in a certain period. Usually, the turnover will come usually on an annual basis. Okay. So for example, we have say 100 people leaving the company in a year, and then we divide it by the average number of people during this year. For example, we have let's say 500 people. So we have 100 people over 500 people times 100%. That means we have 20% of the turnover, right? So of course that can be a high turnover rate or a low turnover rate. Rate depends on the industry. Some industry they got normally they got a very high turnover rate. For example, those retail, those food and beverage (F&B). At the same time, some company or some industry they used to have a rather low turnover rate. For example, the government or or some kind of the very traditional work. So it depends on which industry. Also, you can compare with yourself the year before, right? So try to see whether the turnover rate is going up or down. So a more meaningful analysis. So it's a question is about how you can make use of how you analyze those turnover and fixed stuff. So one of the way is you try to divide it by different department, different team, different unit, and try to see how it goes. And you can also look at the location, look at the job function, and see whether there's some sort of differences. Actually, it always happens to certain function there or certain job. They record usually a higher turnover rate because of many reasons. Because of the job nature, because of the salary level, because of the market. There could be a lot of different reasons that can make some function have a higher turnover than some other function. Or even the grade. More commonly, the lower grade, the turnover are higher. The upper grade are usually lower. It's more common. Or age, younger, usually they have a higher turnover rate, higher turnover, right? Because they are still searching for their ideal job, right? For the older one, because they have the family issue, because they're looking for more security, they tends to be have a lower turnover. And length of service it represents also a kind of investment. If you have been in a company for a longer time, of course, you tend not to leave easily. Okay, so it's more useful if we can look at the trend, for example, from the last 12 months or from the last 5 years, etc. And what are the turnover rate, particularly industry? So you have to look at your own industry and look at those reasons. This is something hard because you may not know the real reason of the turnover. Even you ask those living staff, right? Because they are not necessary to tell you the truth. And what are the average labor tenure? That represent another analysis is about the retention analysis. So there are a lot of reasons for leaving, but usually we will focusing on those 1, 2, on. That means they resign by themselves. We can divide it into the reason to be some belongs to the push factors and some belongs to the pull factors. Push factors means because they just dissatisfied with the company job, whatever, so that they try to find a chance to go away, to move out, right? While for the pull factors, it's because of the external environment, because the attraction of the rival employer, they try to headhunt, they try to get the people from your company, and they offer high salary or whatever, so that to make you to make the staff to leave the company. And we also understand the influence on the turnover not only because you will loss of some talent, you loss of some experience, but also it can affect the kind of the morale and give pressure to those who stay in the company. So here are some consequences. For example, higher recruitment costs. You got the pressure on those experienced employees because they always need to spend time to teach those new one. And if the new one just leave quickly and they need to teach another one, and then they always spend time on teaching people, that will a kind of pressure, and they will become so frustrated, right? And there's certain effect on the turnover and the motivation and the productivity. So how to retain employee? So the retention approach. So a more comprehensive one is we don't just focusing on one way, but also in different ways. Starting from when we select people, we try to select those really suitable one. We try to provide professional growth. We try to provide some career direction and engage them in more meaningful work and give them to have a higher ownership. Try to recognize them, promote a good learning cultures, work-life balance, and acknowledge their achievement. And we try to manage those involuntary turnover well, and try to provide them with some sort of the support. So one of the retaining strategy, especially for the training development, is we can introduce those mentoring. Try to let them to have a more variety of job, improve their opportunity to grow, improve the succession planning, broadening their development opportunities, etc. For another area is for the culture and the management style. So we need not only to deal with those employees, but also to deal with their management. So to let them to train to be a good manager. So it's important to improve the manager their people management skill. So they need to know how to take care of their staff and development a good management style that will nurturing the staff participation, teamwork, and also promote their autonomy and communication. Develop a management style, not to just to command, but also to support, giving the employee autonomy through empowerment, recognize their performance. And then for the work-life balance, especially there's increase the female employment, right? So sometimes we have to understand some female staff, they have to take care of their family. So a real work-life balance that will enable them to work well and to have a higher satisfaction and a lower turnover and a better morale to retain. One thing also important is provide flexibility, not only the time, but also the places. So especially during this COVID, I think it's good for the company to arrange certain work from home practices, so that to allow the people they can have more flexibility to work. And sometimes during a certain period of time, they may need to take a break. So for the sabbatical, so it's good if the company can offer a certain career break for them to learn, for them to go to school, or for them to achieve something they want to do. And can offer assistance in different ways, for example, childcare and flexible benefit. And another retention strategy is from the reward and benefit. So it's become easier to target the reward at individual employee because sometimes the traditional system of kind of targeting a large group of people is not working very well. So nowadays we need to change our concept and try to tailor to different needs of different people. Pay increase is of course is important. It's not only a kind of recognition, but in actual because of you offer a higher salary. That means they are not easy to get even a better one in outside. So it creates some sort of the protection for them to leave the company. There's certain measure, for example, there's a pay retention bonus or ownership plan. And ownership plan is a really good initiative. Ownership plan means the staff they own also the company share, right? So it changed the status, not only working as a staff, but also they are being a boss, a share owners, right? And ensure the market rate are matched and improve the benefit. Okay, so let's go to chapter 7. Chapter 7, I don't have too much stuff. Actually, it was being examined last year. It's asking about the definition of engagement as well as what kind of factors affecting the disengagement, right? So this year I just give you some basic concept on the engagement and disengagement that you can study about it. I think important is what's the consequence of the disengagement. So there are certain figures appear here that can support the importance of the disengagement or the consequence of the disengagement that can cost a lot of money to the company. And then what factor contribute to disengagement? One of the very key factors we will say is the leadership style. So the leadership, especially during the organization change, how they act, how they become a role model, and how other staff see their leader become very important. If they see their leader being weak, being not considerate, being to be quite not people orientated, or this kind of the image can affect the people being engaged in the company. So the leadership is important. And some very bad things about the management style is the kind of inconsistency. If they do something on one time and do another thing on another time, which are not consistent, the people will tends to think that the leader are just not fair, right? And without the communication channel and poor work-life balance and very few opportunity for development also constitute to disengagement. So while for the positive factors that can contribute to employee engagement, also listing out here. So you can see the helping behavior, sportsmanship, organization loyalty, organizational compliance, individual initiative, civic virtues, and self-development. Okay, so what's the organization strategy for the engagement? First, I think it's important is the good quality of the line management. Okay, so managers who care about their employee and treat them fairly, encourage them to perform well. And other factors, the two-way open communication. So to try to allow the employee to voice out their ideas, suggestions, and keep the employee informed of what are relevant to them. And effective cooperation, focus on employee development. The last but not least is commitment to the employee well-being. Try to understand them and try to be more considerate. And clear and also accessible means the staff can always assess the HR policy and practice and understand what the opportunity and what the policy they are. And fair pay and benefit and harmless working environment are all important as the factors or for the company to promoting engagement. So the organization, of course, they can benefit from the engagement for higher retention, higher customer satisfaction, so and so. Okay, here come to the last topic, which are very important. Of course, when we understand different law that all are very related to what you will come across. But among all the law, I will try to focusing on certain important one. For example, for the wages, actually the minimum wage ordinance that protect the people from suffering from the very low wages, and some sort of the protection, including the protection from the employer, the employee can be being deducted their salary. So there's a legislation saying that only 1/6 of the salary can be deducted in a wage period. And there's a legislation to require the employer to pay the staff within 7 days. There's also there's not much legislation about the bonus and year-end payment, but if it's in the contract, of course, the employer has to honor it. And for the pension and the retirement scheme as well, with the introduction of the MPF, the Mandatory Provident Fund in Hong Kong in 2000, actually all employers and the employee have to be making the contribution which is equal to 5% of the salary to the retirement scheme. And the money will be portable. That means if you change from one job to another, the pension, the MPF will follow you, and actually you will not lose a penny. And for the insurance, there's a mandatory requirement on the employee compensation insurance. And for the holiday and leave, actually there's registration that provide at least 7 days for the annual leave and up to 12 days after you work certain period of time. And there's a general holiday and also the the mandatory holiday, the statutory holiday that are also required by the legislation. So in a sense, for this sort of the protection, it cover actually quite comprehensively. There's also legislation about servant pay and long service payment. You can find all the details from this slide, or you can go to the Labor Department website. You can check the legislation about the employer are liable to pay this kind of payment to the staff. But the very decidedly is right now there's still the law is about the employer can offset their contribution in the MPF or the retirement fund with the service pay or the long service pay. So actually the employee, even they are entitled to this payment, they don't get a lot additionally because it has been offset by the retirement fund. So this is the slide about the termination. There's a simple rules that's about the you need to give a certain notice, even if it was not stated in the contract. You need to give a certain notice to the employer or the employee if you want to terminate the contract. And the principle is this kind of notice or payment in lieu should be the same. No matter it's the employer they try to terminate or the employee they want to resign from their position. So it states about some valid reason for the dismissal and some dismissal actually is contradict to the law. And there's a rules about summary dismissal that means the employer can always they can terminate the staff summary by using the summary dismissal without paying those right, or they can forfeit the original right of the employee under normal termination. For example, for the outstanding pay leave, right? For example, for the notice pay, right? The payment in lieu of the notice, they can just skip it if they use summary dismissal. Of course, it's not that easy to constitute a summary so that are acceptable by also the government or the Labor Department. So there's certain reason that the employer can do the summary dismissal. Okay, here come to the most important part is about the discrimination law. As you know, there are 4 discrimination law in Hong Kong right now that include the gender discrimination, that also the disability, family status, and also the racial discrimination. So in a certain area, if the employer are being accused of under the below circumstances that can constitute to discrimination. Starting from if they are providing different opportunity for promotion or transfer training to different people, or refusing a chance of being employed, or dismissing some stuff because of the ground of the sex, pregnancy, marital status, disability, family status, or race, that can constitute or against the discrimination law. Okay, one of the area under the gender discrimination is called sexual harassment. So this is important because it can happen quite easily, but sometimes even the victim they don't understand it, and they don't know how to protect themselves. Okay, so the sexual harassment usually arise from the conduct of an employee to another employee. So we call the harasser and also the victim. Usually, what the sexual harassment occurs is when the harasser make a sexual advance or requests for sexual favors, and the victim does not welcome such kind of conduct. Important thing is no matter what, if the employer will help liable if they allow such kind of sexually hostile or kind of the work environment, and has not demonstrated all the steps to prevent this kind of things happen, so they can be held liable for that. So another discrimination is disability one. So I don't explain more. Also about family status, race discrimination. So the 4 discrimination law we all mentioned. Try to think about the such kind of discrimination law. Do you think is good enough to protect the staff in Hong Kong? Anything missing, or anything you found we should go for it and can be more comprehensive and can be protect the staff better? Another goes to our mind is about the sexual harassment. Okay, we talk about also the data privacy, but I think just for your understanding, I don't think I will go into detail to explain to you. But the same case is the employer also held liable for that. So it's very important, no matter it's for the discrimination or the data privacy, the employer is always liable for allowing something happen in the company. So I provide you a additional reading for the question about how the employer can limit liability for sexual harassment. The reference link is here. Okay. Or if you simply type this title, you can find an article from the Google. Okay. So to be very simple, in the article you talk about you must have a sexual harassment policy, and you need to train every staff about that, and they understand it very well. And whenever there's aggregation, that means some complaint, those stuff, you need to investigate fully. You don't leave them not attended, right? And whenever there's something happen, there's always someone who raise the issue or complaint, which we call them as a whistleblower, right? And you need to protect the whistleblower, because otherwise nobody will blow the whistle if you don't protect the whistleblower. Because in reality, a lot of sexual harassment are from those senior people. So the manager or the very senior people, they harass the people under them, right? So if you don't protect the whistleblower, the senior people, they may try to do the revenge and to make those whistleblowers to be very hard or being fired. Oh, there's a good point here. Is trying to establish what kind of the workplace dating policy. So, so to allow those office romance to be happen in a more natural way, or not being used badly. Okay, so I finish. Okay, I finish all the slide, which will be sent to you for you to do your revision easier. Okay, we will take maybe a 3-minute break, and we have about still 15 minutes. So if you have any question, please type in the chat room, so that when I come back, I can look into those questions and try to answer you. Okay? Or the question about the assignment is also fine. Okay, so let's take a break now and try to type your questions. Okay, so let's back. Okay, I can see the questions. Where can we see the recording of today? I don't think we have recorded, but everything I talk actually also from the slide. So the slide you get all the two PowerPoint which I have talked about, so you can refer to it. If you are here for the last 2.5 hours, I think you should be able to know. The question from Kelly is about the case assignment. If you don't have 2,000 work, you don't make 2,000 work. Actually, the work limit should be 10% up or down. So that means if you can make 1,800 work, still you are within the acceptable range. So that's what I think you need to do. I think it's not difficult because 3 questions and each question just 600 word. I don't think is that much. On the other hand, you cannot have to work more than 2,200 because within the 10% limit. Okay, when maybe some questions are coming yet, I will tell you that the question from the examination will not be that straightforward because it's an online one, and that means you can always have a lot of references, right? And you don't have to really memorize everything because you can always refer. Of course, if you don't familiar with it, it will cost you a lot of time to find it, and you won't have enough time because the 2-hour limit is quite tight for 3 questions. Okay, let me go back to the guidance for the examination topic. If you hear from the revision, you will see actually there's not much from the topic 5. Okay. There's not much from the topic 7. Okay, so you got the answer. That's mean you can focusing on more on the topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, 4, 6, and 8. I think this is the maximum I can tell you. Yes, we will have 3 questions. Yes. Do we need to? Yes, it's better if you can adopt some reference, especially now you are online one. Actually, you can obtain those references easily. Of course, additional mark will be given if you can provide those reference. Oh, there's no restriction on what kind of reference method. You can use the APA, Harvard, whatever, as long as you provide good reference. Which reference style do we use for assignment? According to school, I think they don't have a preference. For me, of course, I'm more familiar with the APA format. Study guys say Harvard. Okay, then Harvard. Okay. Any questions? And if you look at the topic or look at the very important one, for the let's go to the topic. Okay. Okay, so you listen carefully. Okay. So within the topic 1, I will suggest you to study more about the HRM best practice model, and the discussion of the limited use of the best practice. Okay. For the topic 2, I will suggest you to focusing on the recruiting, starting from the internal-external approach and effective recruiting and the use of online and social media recruiting. For the topic 3, I will suggest you to focusing on more about the management development tools. That is the job rotation and other management development tools. For the topic 4, I would like you to focusing on the issue of the radar impact and 360-degree appraisal. And okay, for the topic, okay, that's all. Oh, for the topic 7, oh, sorry, is this topic 7? Yeah, in the topic 7, oh, sorry, I just said topic 7 may not be that important, which is not correct. Actually, there's a topic about in the engagement, which belongs to engagement, as you say. It's about the turnover and retention, which I talk a little bit more. I think you may aware that. So the relationship between the turnover and the how to reduce the turnover and how to do the analysis of the turnover and the retention. And the last but not the least is try to look at the last 3 questions: the legal protection, the sexual harassment, and the employer liability. Okay. Do we have enough time after making 4 or 5 lectures to finish? That's why you need to prepare. So only when you are well prepared, you can do it. Otherwise, yes, 2 hours may be too short. So it's not topic 6, it's topic 7 actually, because it's quite related. So actually, if under the classification is under topic 7, retention and turnover. What about other topics? So it depends. If you want, it's always good to understand all those topics. Actually, they have certain points they are related, but of course, If you don't have enough time, perhaps you can be more focused. So any other questions? If not, I think it's about time to end this section. So as please be reminded for the assignment. So I will only accept if I receive it before January 10th. That's means next Monday. Yeah, because the deadline is next Friday, right? So it's too limited time. If I receive it late, actually I won't have time to reply you, and you won't have time to correct it. Okay. So please be reminded. I will accept those inquiry before January 10th. Okay. So since I have answered every question, so please wait for Wincy to send you the materials I share you today. Okay. So if you have no more questions, let's end the session and good luck for your assignment and examination. Okay. Okay. Bye.